I signed the papers that would give away my house to my own granddaughter while she smiled at me like I was doing her the biggest favor in the world. I had no idea I was signing my own eviction notice. But the worst part? I thought I was helping her build a future. I thought family meant something. They tell you to trust your family. They tell you blood is thicker than water. They tell you that the people who share your DNA will always have your back. I'm here to tell you that's the biggest lie I ever believed, and it cost me everything I worked 43 years to build. I'm standing in my kitchen right now, the same kitchen where I raised 3 children, where I baked birthday cakes for 12 grandchildren, where I canned tomatoes every summer and made Christmas cookies every December. The morning light comes through the window the same way it has for 4 decades, falling on the counter where I've rolled out pie dough 1,000 times. But in 72 hours, this won't be my kitchen anymore. In 72 hours, I'll be homeless at 68 years old because I trusted the one person I thought would never hurt me. My name is Dorothy Hayes, and this is the story of how my favorite granddaughter stole my house from right under my feet while I helped her do it. But let's go back to the beginning, because evil doesn't announce itself with horns and a pitchfork. It comes wearing the face of someone you love, speaking words you want to hear, making promises that sound like dreams coming true. It started 6 months ago on a Thursday afternoon in April. I remember because the lilacs were blooming outside my kitchen window, filling the house with that sweet smell that always reminded me of my late husband Thomas. He had planted those bushes 30 years ago, and every spring when they bloomed, I felt like he was sending me a message that he was still watching over me. I was sitting at my kitchen table going through bills like I did every month, calculator in one hand, reading glasses sliding down my nose, trying to make my fixed income stretch to cover everything. Social Security gave me $1,100 a month. The mortgage payment was $450. Utilities ran about $200. Then there was food, medicine for my blood pressure, property taxes that kept going up every year. I was managing, but just barely. One unexpected expense, one emergency, and I'd be in real trouble. My phone rang. The screen showed Jessica's name with that photo I loved, the one from her college graduation 3 years ago, where she was smiling so big you could see all her teeth. My baby girl, my first grandchild, the one who used to climb into my lap when she was little and say, "Grandma, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." "Grandma Dorothy?" Her voice came through the phone, and I could hear she was crying. My heart immediately started racing. "Baby, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" "No, I'm not hurt. Grandma, I don't know what to do. I need help, and you're the only person I can talk to." I set down my calculator and gave her my full attention. Jessica was 25, working as a dental assistant, living in an apartment across town. She was always the responsible one, the one who made good choices, the one I bragged about to my friends at church. If she was crying, something serious had happened. "Tell me everything, sweetheart. You know I'm here for you." She took a shaky breath. "It's Brandon. He left me. He took all the money from our joint account and moved to another state with some girl he met at work. I just found out this morning." Brandon was her boyfriend of 3 years. I had never completely trusted him, something about the way his eyes shifted when he talked, but I had kept my mouth shut because Jessica seemed happy. Now I wished I had spoken up. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Come over right now. I'll make you some tea and we'll talk about everything." "I can't, Grandma. I'm at work, and I can't let them see me like this. But that's not even the worst part." She paused, and I heard her blow her nose. "He left me with all the debt, the credit cards, the car payment, everything. And my landlord just told me he's selling the building. I have to move out in 60 days. My grandmother instincts kicked into overdrive. "How much debt are we talking about?" "Almost $12,000. And I've been looking at apartments, Grandma. Everything is so expensive now. Even the cheap places want first month, last month, and a security deposit. I don't have that kind of money. I barely have enough to cover this month's rent." I looked around my house, at the 3 bedrooms upstairs that sat empty ever since Thomas died 4 years ago, at the basement that we had finished decades ago for the kids to play in, at all this space that was just me rattling around in memories. "Jessica, you know you can move in here with me. You can have your old room, the one you used to sleep in when you spent summers here." "I thought about that, Grandma, but—" She trailed off. "But what, baby? It wouldn't be fair to you. I'd be bringing all my problems into your peaceful life. And besides, what if I meet someone new eventually? What if I want to have friends over? I can't be 25 years old living with my grandmother. There's no shame in family helping family, Jessica. I know, and I love you for offering. It's just, I've been thinking about this all day, and I might have a solution, but I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think about it before you answer. Something in her tone changed. It became more focused, more deliberate. I should have noticed that shift, but I was too busy feeling sorry for her situation. What is it, sweetheart? What if we became partners? What if we turned your house into both of our house? I didn't understand what she meant. I don't follow. Okay, hear me out. I could hear her moving, probably going somewhere more private to talk. Your house is paid off, right? You own it free and clear. Yes, your grandfather and I paid off the mortgage 8 years before he died. And it's worth a lot more now than when you bought it, right? This neighborhood has gotten really expensive. I suppose so. I got a letter from a real estate agent last month saying houses on this street are selling for $300,000. I thought it was crazy. Thomas and I paid $42,000 for this place back in 1982. Exactly. So here's what I'm thinking. What if you added my name to the deed? We'd own it together, 50-50. That way, I'd have security. I'd have equity. I could use that to get a loan to pay off Brandon's debt and get back on my feet. And you'd have someone living here with you, helping with expenses, making sure you're okay. It would solve both our problems. My first instinct was to say no. This was Thomas's house. This was where we had built our life together. The idea of putting someone else's name on it, even my beloved granddaughter, felt wrong. But then I thought about how lonely I had been since Thomas died. How sometimes I went 3 or 4 days without seeing another person except at the grocery store. How the house felt too big and too empty. How scared I was of getting older and maybe falling down the stairs or having a medical emergency with no one there to help. I don't know, Jessica. That's a really big decision. I know it is, and I'm not trying to pressure you, but think about it, Grandma. We'd be a team. I'd help you with the property taxes and repairs. You wouldn't have to worry about the house getting to be too much for you. And when you eventually pass away, God forbid, I'd already be on the deed so there wouldn't be any complicated estate stuff. No probate, no lawyers, no fighting with Uncle Marcus or Aunt Denise over the house. That part actually made sense. My 2 children, Jessica's father Marcus and his sister Denise, had never gotten along well. I had worried about what would happen to the house after I died, how they would fight over it, how they would probably just sell it to split the money rather than keeping it in the family. You'd really want to live here with an old lady? You're not an old lady, Grandma. You're only 68. My friend Caroline's grandmother is 68, and she just climbed a mountain. Besides, I love this house. I have so many good memories here, and I promise I wouldn't cramp your style. I work long hours, so you'd barely notice I was here most of the time. I found myself warming to the idea. Where would you put all your furniture? I barely have any furniture. Brandon took most of it. I could set up in the basement, make it like a little apartment. It has that bathroom down there already, and I could get a hot plate for simple meals. You'd have your space, I'd have mine, but we'd be there for each other. Let me think about it for a few days, okay? Of course, Grandma. I don't want you to feel rushed, but can I come over this weekend? I could help you clean out the basement, and we could talk about it more. That Saturday, Jessica showed up at 10 in the morning with coffee from my favorite bakery and that bright smile that had melted my heart since she was born. She wore jeans and an old t-shirt, ready to work. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she had dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't been sleeping well. You look tired, baby, I said, hugging her at the door. I am tired, Grandma. I'm exhausted, but I'm excited too. Can we look at the basement? We spent 3 hours going through boxes of old Christmas decorations, Thomas's tools, the kids' toys I had saved for grandchildren who never played with them. Jessica oohed and awed over everything, reminiscing about Christmases past, asking if she could keep certain ornaments when she set up her space. This could be so cozy, Grandma, she said, standing in the middle of the finished basement with its wood paneling and drop ceiling. I could put a bed right here, maybe a small couch there, string up some lights to make it warm. It would be perfect. I looked at her face, so full of hope, and I felt my resistance crumbling. This was my granddaughter, my flesh and blood, the little girl who used to help me bake cookies and water the garden. How could I say no to her when she needed me? Okay, I heard myself say. Let's do it. Her face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? You mean it? Really. But we need to do this properly. We need to go to a lawyer and make sure everything is legal and correct. Absolutely. I wouldn't want it any other way. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Thank you, Grandma. You have no idea how much this means to me. You're literally saving my life. The next Tuesday, we met at the office of Robert Chen, a real estate attorney that Jessica had found. His office was in a modern building downtown, all glass and chrome, very different from the dusty old lawyer's office where Thomas and I had done our will decades ago. Mr. Chen was a young man, maybe 35, with neat hair and an expensive suit. He shook both our hands and invited us to sit in the leather chairs across from his big desk. "So," he said, opening a folder, "Jessica has explained the situation to me. Mrs. Hayes, you want to add your granddaughter to the deed of your property, making you joint owners with rights of survivorship. Is that correct?" "I suppose so. I want to make sure Jessica has security, and that when I die, the house goes to her without any problems." That's exactly what this will accomplish. With joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, when one owner passes away, their interest automatically transfers to the surviving owner without going through probate. It's actually a very smart estate planning move. He pulled out several documents and spread them across the desk. "Now, this is the current deed to your property, and these are the new documents that will add Jessica as a joint owner. I'll need you to sign here, here, and here." He pointed to lines marked with yellow tabs. I picked up a pen, but then I hesitated. What exactly am I signing? You're signing a quitclaim deed that transfers your sole ownership into joint ownership with Jessica. You're also signing an affidavit stating that this transfer is voluntary and that you understand the implications. What implications? Well, once Jessica is on the deed, she owns 50% of the property. She would have equal rights to the home. She could technically force a sale if she wanted to, though I'm sure she would never do that. He smiled at Jessica, who smiled back sweetly. Could she sell her half to someone else? Technically, yes. But again, in a family situation like this, that would be highly unusual. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. Mr. Chen seemed professional. The office looked legitimate. And Jessica was sitting there holding my hand, looking at me with those trusting eyes. "Is there anything else I should know?" I asked. "Just that once these documents are filed with the county, they're public record and binding. But Mrs. Hayes, you're doing a wonderful thing for your granddaughter. Not many young people these days have family willing to help them build equity and security." I looked at Jessica one more time. She nodded encouragingly. I signed my name on all 3 documents. "Perfect," Mr. Chen said, gathering the papers. "I'll file these with the county this week. Within about 10 days, the new deed will be recorded and you'll both receive copies in the mail." We stood up to leave. Mr. Chen shook my hand again. "Congratulations, Mrs. Hayes. You've just made a very generous gift to your granddaughter." In the parking lot, Jessica hugged me again. "I'm going to make you so proud, Grandma. I promise. I'll start moving my stuff in this weekend, okay?" "Okay, baby. I'm looking forward to having you here." She drove away in her beat-up Honda, and I sat in my car for a few minutes, feeling that strange sensation in my stomach that I couldn't quite identify. It wasn't regret exactly. It was more like stepping off a cliff and not knowing if I would land safely. But I pushed the feeling away. This was Jessica, my granddaughter. What could possibly go wrong? If you've ever trusted someone completely only to discover they were playing you from the very start, leave a comment, because I was about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. Jessica moved in 2 weeks later, with surprisingly little stuff. A few boxes of clothes, some toiletries, a laptop. She set up in the basement like she had promised, and for the first month, everything seemed perfect. She was quiet, respectful, always willing to help with groceries or household chores. She paid me $300 a month toward utilities and groceries, which helped my tight budget. We fell into an easy routine. I'd make coffee in the mornings, and she'd join me before work. We'd watch game shows together some evenings. On Sundays, we'd go to church and then have lunch at the diner. It felt good having her there, having family close by, not being so alone. But then, small things started to change. About 6 weeks after she moved in, I noticed mail addressed to Jessica coming to the house. Not just a piece or two, but stacks of envelopes, credit card application, bank statements, official-looking letters from places I didn't recognize. "Why are you getting so much mail?" I asked her one morning at breakfast. She barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, I changed my address when I moved in. It's easier than having to forward everything. It seems like a lot. Just bills and junk mail. You know how it is. She smiled and changed the subject. Are you going to your book club meeting this afternoon? I was. It was Wednesday, and I met with 4 other women from church every other Wednesday to discuss whatever novel we were reading. I loved those meetings, looked forward to them all week. When I came home 3 hours later, Jessica's car was in the driveway, which was unusual. She normally worked until 6. I walked in through the front door and heard voices coming from the kitchen, Jessica's voice and a man's voice. I walked toward the kitchen and stopped in the doorway. Jessica was sitting at my kitchen table with a man I didn't recognize. He was maybe 40, wearing a cheap suit, with slicked back hair and a briefcase open on the table. Documents were spread everywhere, and Jessica was signing something. Grandma! Jessica jumped up, looking startled. You're home early. I'm home at my regular time. Who is this? The man stood and extended his hand. Steve Morrison, financial consultant. Jessica hired me to help her reorganize her debt situation. I didn't shake his hand. Why are you doing this in my kitchen? Jessica said you wouldn't mind. We just needed a quiet place to review some paperwork. What kind of paperwork? Jessica started gathering the documents quickly. Just boring financial stuff, Grandma. Nothing for you to worry about. But I had seen something before she could cover it all up. I had seen the address on one of the forms. My address. Jessica, why does that paper have my address on it? Because I live here, Grandma. I had to use my residential address for the application. What application? Steve Morrison closed his briefcase with an awkward smile. I should get going. Jessica, you have my number if you need anything else. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Hayes. He left, and suddenly the kitchen felt very quiet. Jessica was standing by the table, not quite meeting my eyes. What was that really about? I asked. Exactly what I said. Steve is helping me consolidate my debt. I'm trying to get my finances in order. By having secret meetings in my kitchen while I'm out? They weren't secret. I just didn't think you'd be interested in my boring financial stuff. You always say numbers give you a headache. That was true. I had said that many times, but something still felt wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those documents on my kitchen table, about the way Jessica had hurriedly covered them up, about how Steve Morrison had seemed uncomfortable when I questioned him. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and went downstairs to the kitchen. I opened the trash can, wondering if maybe Jessica had thrown away papers I could look at, but the trash had been emptied. I was being paranoid. I was being a suspicious old woman. Jessica was my granddaughter. She loved me. She wouldn't do anything to hurt me. But the next day, I did something I had never done before. When Jessica left for work, I went down to the basement. I told myself I was just checking to make sure everything was clean, that she was taking care of the space. But really, I was looking for something that would explain the uneasy feeling I couldn't shake. Her area was neat. The bed was made. Clothes hung in the small closet we had cleared out. Her laptop was closed on a small desk. I almost left, but then I saw a folder sticking out from under her mattress. I pulled it out. Inside were documents, lots of documents, loan applications, property appraisals. And there, in the middle of the stack, was something that made my blood turn to ice. It was a document titled Promissory Note and Deed of Trust. It was dated 3 days after Jessica and I had signed the papers at Mr. Chen's office. The borrower was listed as Jessica Hayes. The lender was something called Premier Capital Holdings. The amount was $50,000, and the collateral was my house. My house. The house that was supposed to still be mine, that Jessica and I were supposed to own together. I kept reading, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers. According to this document, Jessica had taken out a $50,000 loan using the house as collateral. She had signed something called a deed of trust, which gave the lender the right to foreclose on the property if she didn't pay back the loan. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the payment schedule. The loan was interest only for 12 months, with a balloon payment of the full $50,000 due at the end of 1 year. There was no way Jessica could pay back $50,000 in 1 year. She was a dental assistant making $30,000 a year. Even if she saved every penny, even if she never ate or paid for gas or bought anything, she couldn't come close, which meant she never intended to pay it back, which meant she had a different plan. I sat on her bed, feeling like I might throw up. I flipped through the other documents in the folder. There were more horrors waiting for me. An email from Steve Morrison to Jessica. Once the deed of trust is recorded, you'll have access to the funds. Remember, your grandmother doesn't need to know about this. As far as she's concerned, you're just living with her. When the time comes, we'll handle the foreclosure process. Properties like this usually sell at auction within 90 days. After expenses, you should clear at least $40,000. Not bad for a year of playing the dutiful granddaughter. Another email, this one from Jessica to Steve. She trusts me completely. She'll never suspect anything until it's too late. By the time she figures it out, there won't be anything she can do. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not catch my breath. The room was spinning, and I had to put my head between my knees to keep from passing out. My granddaughter, my beloved Jessica, the little girl I had rocked to sleep and taught to bake cookies and bragged about to everyone I knew, had just stolen my house, and I had helped her do it. I sat on Jessica's bed in the basement for 20 minutes, maybe longer, holding those documents in my trembling hands. The words kept blurring together, because tears were streaming down my face, hot and angry and full of a grief I had never felt before. Not even when Thomas died. Because when Thomas died, I knew he loved me until his last breath. But this was discovering that someone I loved with my whole heart had been playing me like a fiddle from the very first phone call. I heard the sound of a car door slamming outside. Jessica was home early again. I quickly shoved the documents back into the folder, tried to slide it under the mattress exactly how I had found it, but my hands were shaking so badly I dropped it twice. Finally, I got it positioned and rushed up the basement stairs as quietly as my old knees would let me. I made it to the kitchen just as Jessica walked through the front door. "Grandma," she called out. "Are you home?" "In the kitchen, baby," I managed to say, my voice sounding almost normal despite the screaming in my head. She came in smiling, carrying a bag from the Chinese restaurant we both liked. "I thought I'd pick up dinner. I got your favorite, the sweet and sour chicken." I looked at her standing there in her dental scrubs, her ponytail slightly messy from a long day at work, holding that bag of takeout, smiling at me like she was the most loving granddaughter in the world. And for a moment, just a split second, I almost convinced myself I had imagined what I had seen downstairs, that I had read those documents wrong, that there was some explanation that would make everything okay. "That's real sweet of you, Jessica," I said, my voice cracking just a little. "Are you okay, Grandma? You look pale. Just a headache. I think I need to lie down for a bit. Do you want me to bring you some dinner upstairs?" No. You go ahead and eat. I'll have some later." I went up to my bedroom and closed the door. Then I locked it, something I had never done before in my own house. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, trying to think clearly through the panic that was threatening to swallow me whole. Facts. I needed to deal with facts. Fact 1. I had signed papers adding Jessica to the deed of my house. Fact 2. Jessica had then used her ownership interest to take out a $50,000 loan against the property without my knowledge. Fact 3. She had no intention of paying back that loan. Fact 4. When she defaulted, the lender would foreclose on the house. Fact 5. I would lose everything. But there had to be something I could do. There had to be a way to fix this. I had signed those papers, yes, but I had been tricked. That had to count for something, didn't it? I picked up my phone and did something I should have done weeks ago. I called my son, Marcus, Jessica's father. "Mom?" He sounded surprised. We talked maybe once a month, usually just awkward conversations about the weather and his job. "Is everything okay?" "Marcus, I need to ask you something about Jessica." "What about her? Did you know she moved in with me?" There was a pause. "She mentioned something about it a while back. Said you two were going to be roommates. I thought it was a good idea, actually. You shouldn't be living alone at your age, at my age, as if 68 made me incompetent." "Did she tell you why she moved in?" "Something about her boyfriend leaving her and needing a fresh start." "Why? Is she causing problems?" I almost told him everything right then. Almost spilled out the whole story about the documents and the loan and the betrayal. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the tone in his voice, that slightly irritated sound like I was bothering him with trivial concerns. Maybe it was remembering how he and Jessica had always been close, how he might take her side over mine. Maybe it was just pride, not wanting to admit how stupid I had been. No problems. I was just wondering if you had heard from her lately." "Not really. You know how she is, busy with work and her own life. Listen, Mom, I'm actually in the middle of something. Can I call you back later?" He didn't call back. That night, I barely slept. Every time I started to drift off, I would jerk awake, thinking about foreclosure notices and eviction and being homeless at 68 years old. I imagined myself living in a shelter or sleeping in my car, or begging my son to let me stay in his guest room where I would be a burden and a reminder of his mother's foolishness. By morning, I had made a decision. I needed help, real help, from someone who understood the law. I waited until Jessica left for work. Then I got dressed in my best church outfit and drove downtown to the free legal aid clinic I had seen advertised at the senior center. The office was in an old building that smelled like mildew and old carpet. The waiting room was full of people who looked as desperate as I felt. I signed in and waited for 2 hours before a young woman called my name. She couldn't have been more than 30, with tired eyes and a coffee stain on her blouse. "Mrs. Hayes? I'm Amanda Rodriguez. I'm a paralegal here. How can I help you today?" I told her everything. The whole story spilled out of me, from that first phone call from Jessica to the documents I had found under her mattress. Amanda listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be very honest with you. This is a difficult situation, but I was tricked. She lied to me." "That has to matter, doesn't it? The problem is that you voluntarily signed the deed transfer. There's no evidence of coercion or incompetence on your part. You went to an attorney, you signed the papers, you understood what you were signing. But I didn't know she was going to take out a loan against the house. Unfortunately, once she was on the deed, she had the legal right to do that. As a joint owner, she has the same rights to the property that you do." I felt my chest tightening. "So there's nothing I can do?" "I didn't say that. There might be options, but they're complicated and time-sensitive. First, do you know if this deed of trust has been recorded with the county yet?" "I don't know what that means." "It means, has the lender officially filed the paperwork that says they have a claim against your property? If it hasn't been recorded yet, we might be able to challenge it. But if it has been recorded, it becomes much harder." "How do I find out?" "You can check the county recorder's office. It's all public record." She wrote down an address and website for me. "Mrs. Hayes, you also need to talk to an attorney who specializes in elder financial abuse. What your granddaughter did might actually be illegal, but you need to act fast. If she defaults on that loan and they start foreclosure proceedings, you'll have very limited time to respond." "How much would an attorney cost?" Amanda's face softened with sympathy. "More than you probably have, but there are some attorneys who take cases like this on contingency, meaning they only get paid if you win. I can give you some names to call." I left the legal aid office with a list of phone numbers and a sense of dread so heavy I could barely walk to my car. Over the next 3 days, I called every attorney on that list. Most of them didn't call me back. 2 of them said they didn't handle cases like mine. One of them said he would take my case but needed a $5,000 retainer up front. I had $800 in my savings account. On the 4th day, I finally reached an attorney named Patricia Goldman who agreed to meet with me for a free consultation. Her office was small but professional, on the 2nd floor of a building near the courthouse. Patricia was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. Again. The story was getting easier to tell, like I was narrating someone else's tragedy instead of my own. Patricia listened, occasionally asking questions, taking notes on her computer. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Mrs. Hayes, your granddaughter is quite clever. She's exploiting a legal loophole that's actually more common than you might think." "What loophole?" "When you added her to the deed with joint tenancy, you essentially gave her equal ownership of the property. That means she has just as much right to borrow against it as you do. The lender isn't doing anything illegal by giving her the loan. They have a legitimate co-owner as the borrower. But I didn't give her permission. You gave her ownership. Permission is implied in that ownership. The law sees you both as equal owners of the property." I felt tears starting again. "So I really am going to lose my house?" "Not necessarily. There are a few strategies we could try. We could attempt to prove that the deed transfer was made under false pretenses, that she committed fraud in the inducement. We could try to get the deed of trust invalidated. We could negotiate with the lender. But all of these options take time and money. And from what you've told me, you don't have much of either." What if I talk to Jessica? What if I confront her and demand that she fix this?" Patricia gave me a look that mixed pity with pragmatism. "Mrs. Hayes, people who are capable of doing what your granddaughter has done are not usually reasonable when confronted. She's already shown you who she is. She's been living in your house for months, eating meals with you, watching you trust her. all while planning to steal everything you own. That takes a particular kind of ruthlessness. The words hit me like physical blows. Ruthlessness. That's what my sweet Jessica had. Ruthlessness. What do you think I should do? Honestly? Document everything. Make copies of every paper you found, take pictures, create a timeline of events, open a P.O. box and have your important mail sent there so she can't intercept anything. Check the county records to see if that deed of trust has been recorded. And most importantly, don't let her know that you know. Not yet. Why not? Because right now she thinks she's won. She thinks you're clueless. That gives you a small advantage. The element of surprise might be the only leverage you have. If this story is making you angry, if you've ever seen a loved one taken advantage of by someone they trusted, leave a comment below, because it's about to get worse before it gets better. I followed Patricia's advice. I went to the county recorder's office and requested copies of all documents related to my property. The clerk, a bored-looking woman with long fingernails that clicked on the keyboard, printed out everything for me. There it was, recorded officially just 2 weeks after Jessica and I had signed the deed transfer. A deed of trust for $50,000 with Jessica Hayes as the borrower and Premier Capital Holdings as the lender. My house, my home for 43 years, was now collateral for a loan I hadn't known existed. But there was something else in the documents, something the clerk pointed out almost casually. You've got a new quitclaim deed recorded here too, dated last week. What do you mean? Another deed transfer. Looks like Jessica Hayes transferred her interest in the property to someone else. My heart stopped. What? The clerk showed me the document. Jessica had signed over her 50% ownership of my house to a company called Heritage Property Solutions, LLC. What does this mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Means you don't own your house with your granddaughter anymore. You own it with this LLC. Looks like your granddaughter sold her half. I stumbled out of the recorder's office and sat in my car in the parking lot, trying to understand what I had just learned. Jessica had not only taken out a loan against the house, she had actually sold her share of ownership to some company I had never heard of, which meant I was now co-owners with strangers. That night, Jessica came home at her normal time, cheerful as always. She had stopped at the store and bought ingredients to make spaghetti, my favorite. I thought we could have a nice dinner together, Grandma. Just you and me. We haven't done that in a while. I watched her cook in my kitchen, humming along to music on her phone, occasionally asking me to taste the sauce to see if it needed more seasoning. She was so good at this, so convincing. If I hadn't seen those documents with my own eyes, I would have believed completely that she loved me. We sat down to eat. She had even lit candles and poured me a glass of wine. "This is nice," she said, twirling spaghetti on her fork. "I feel like we've both been so busy lately. It's good to just sit and talk." "Jessica," I heard myself say, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, Grandma. Anything." "Do you remember when you first asked to move in here? You said Brandon had left you with all that debt." "Yeah." Her face clouded over. "That was a really hard time. Did you ever pay off that debt?" She hesitated just a second too long. "I'm working on it. It's a process. And your landlord who was selling the building and making you move out? What about him? Did he really sell the building?" Another pause. "Why are you asking me all these questions? I'm just curious." "You never talk about that time anymore." Jessica set down her fork. "Grandma, that was months ago. I've moved on. Why are you bringing it up now?" "Because I'm trying to understand if any of it was real." The room went very quiet. The candles flickered. Outside, I could hear a dog barking. "What are you saying?" Jessica's voice had gone cold. "I'm saying that I think you lied to me. I think Brandon didn't take all your money. I think your landlord wasn't selling the building. I think you made up a story to manipulate me into putting your name on my house." Jessica stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "That's a horrible thing to say. Is it true? I can't believe you would accuse me of something like that. After everything I've done for you, after all the time I've spent taking care of you." "Taking care of me? Or setting me up?" Her face changed. The mask slipped just for a second, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. "You went through my things," she said flatly. "This is my house. I have every right to—" "It's not just your house anymore, Dorothy." She said my name instead of Grandma, and it sounded like a curse. "It hasn't been for months. I know about the loan. I know about Heritage Property Solutions. I know everything." Jessica laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "You know everything? You don't know anything, you stupid old woman." The words hit me like a slap. I actually took a step backward. "Here's what you don't know," Jessica continued, and now her voice was like ice. "That loan? It defaults in 3 weeks. And when it does, Heritage Property Solutions, which by the way is owned by Steve Morrison, my financial consultant, who you were so rude to, is going to foreclose on this property. They're going to auction it off, and you're going to have exactly 90 days to get out. But I own half of this house, a half that's underwater the second the foreclosure happens. You think anyone is going to buy your share of a foreclosed property? You'll be lucky if you walk away with $10,000. Meanwhile, Steve and I will split about $150,000 after the property sells." I felt like I was going to faint. $150,000? Real estate prices have gone up, Grandma. You said so yourself. This house is worth at least $300,000 now, probably more. But the loan is only for $50,000. The loan is how we get you out of the house. The foreclosure is how we force a sale. It's all perfectly legal. I checked with 3 different lawyers. She smiled, and it was the cruelest thing I had ever seen. "You signed the papers, Dorothy. You made me an owner. Everything that happened after that was just business. How could you do this to me? I loved you. I raised you. You were an easy target. A lonely old widow desperate for company, desperate to feel needed. You practically begged me to take this house from you. Tears were streaming down my face. Jessica, please, this is my home. It's all I have left of your grandfather, of our life together. Please don't do this." For just a moment, I thought I saw something soften in her face, but then it was gone. "You have 3 weeks to figure out where you're going to go," she said. "I'd suggest you start packing." She grabbed her purse and walked out the front door, leaving me standing in my kitchen surrounded by the ruins of our dinner and the shattered pieces of my heart. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat in my bedroom with the door locked, listening to every sound in the house, wondering if Jessica would come back. She didn't. Around 3 in the morning, I heard her car pull into the driveway, heard her go straight down to the basement without even pausing at the top of the stairs. She was that confident, that sure she had won. But something had happened to me during those long, dark hours. Something had shifted inside my chest, replacing the grief and shock with something harder, something sharper. Anger. Pure, white-hot anger at the injustice of it all, at the cruelty, at the calculated way she had targeted my loneliness and turned it into a weapon against me. I had spent my whole life being nice, being accommodating, being the kind of woman who apologized when other people bumped into her. Thomas used to joke that I would probably apologize to a burglar for not having more valuable things to steal, but I was done being nice. At 7 in the morning, I called Patricia Goldman. "Mrs. Hayes, is everything okay?" "No, nothing is okay. Jessica knows I found out. She confronted me last night. She told me everything, Patricia. She admitted the whole plan." "Did you record the conversation?" "No, I didn't think to." "It's okay. Stay calm. Tell me exactly what she said." I recounted the entire conversation, every cruel word, every detail of their scheme. Patricia was quiet while I talked, but I could hear her typing frantically. "Mrs. Hayes, this changes things. If she verbally admitted to fraud, to setting up a scheme to steal your property, we might have grounds for criminal charges." "Criminal charges? What she's doing is called elder financial abuse. It's a felony. But the problem is proof. Without a recording, it's your word against hers. So I'm still going to lose my house. Maybe not. I have an idea, but it's risky, and you'll need to be braver than you've ever been in your life. Can you do that?" I thought about Thomas, about how he had always told me I was stronger than I believed. I thought about 43 years of memories in this house. I thought about Jessica's cold eyes calling me a stupid old woman. "Yes," I said. "Tell me what to do." Patricia's plan was simple but terrifying. I needed to get Jessica to admit to the scheme again, but this time with my phone recording the conversation. In my state, only one party needed to consent to a recording for it to be legal, which meant I didn't have to tell Jessica I was recording. "But she's not going to just casually confess again," I said. "No. You're going to have to make her angry enough or confident enough that she can't help herself. You need to push her buttons. What if she gets violent? Do you think she would hurt you physically?" I thought about the cold calculation in Jessica's eyes, about the months of planning and pretending. I don't know. I don't know her anymore. Then we'll have a backup plan. I'm going to have someone waiting outside your house during the conversation. An investigator I work with. If anything goes wrong, you say the word Thomas 3 times in a sentence, and he'll come in. Can you remember that? Thomas 3 times. Good. When can you do this? Tonight. She'll be home from work around 6. Call me the second you have the recording. And Mrs. Hayes? Be careful. People who are cornered can be dangerous. I spent the day preparing. I charged my phone fully. I figured out how to use the voice recording app. I practiced starting the recording quickly, hiding the phone in my pocket so the microphone would still pick up sound. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would provoke Jessica into talking. And I made one more call, one I should have made weeks ago. Marcus, it's Mom. I need you to listen to me very carefully and not interrupt. I told my son everything, the whole story from beginning to end. There was a long silence when I finished. Mom, I don't know what to say. Are you sure Jessica would do something like this? I'm positive. I have documents proving it. But why wouldn't you tell me sooner? Because I was ashamed. Because I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. Because she's your daughter and I didn't want to destroy that relationship. If what you're saying is true, she destroyed it herself. His voice was shaking. What do you need from me? I need you to come to the house tonight around 7. Park down the street where she can't see your car. And if I call you and sound scared, I need you to come inside immediately. Mom, maybe you should just call the police. And tell them what? That my granddaughter tricked me into signing legal papers? They can't do anything without proof, Marcus. I need to get that proof first. This sounds dangerous. Living on the street at 68 sounds more dangerous. He was quiet again. Okay, I'll be there. But Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have paid more attention. I should have asked more questions. We can talk about that later. Right now, I just need you to be there. Jessica came home at 6:15. I was in the kitchen, my phone in my apron pocket already recording. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to grip the edge of the counter to steady myself. Grandma? She sounded surprised to see me. I thought you'd be hiding upstairs. This is my house, Jessica. I'm not going to hide in my own house. She set her purse on the table and opened the refrigerator, pulling out a bottle of water like nothing had happened, like she hadn't verbally destroyed me less than 24 hours ago. So, have you started packing yet? She asked casually. I'm not going anywhere. She laughed. Dorothy, we've been through this. You don't have a choice. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said, about how clever your plan was. I have to admit, you really did fool me completely. Jessica turned to look at me, suspicious. What are you doing? I'm just saying I'm impressed. The fake story about Brandon, the way you manipulated me into feeling sorry for you, getting me to sign those papers, it was really well executed. Are you making fun of me? No, I'm serious. I'd like to understand how you came up with the whole plan. Was it your idea or Steve Morrison's? Why do you care? Because I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. If I'm going to lose everything, I should at least understand how it happened. Jessica studied me for a long moment, trying to figure out my angle. Then, slowly, she smiled, that cruel smile I had seen last night. It was my idea, she said, pride creeping into her voice. Steve just helped with the technical details, but the concept? That was all me. How did you even know it would work? I did research. There are whole forums online about this kind of thing. Real estate exploitation, they call it. Old people add their kids or grandkids to their deeds all the time without understanding the consequences. It's like taking candy from a baby. My stomach turned, but I kept my voice steady. And the story about Brandon? That was all made up? Brandon and I broke up 2 years ago, and I never had any debt. I make good money, and I'm smart with it. I just needed a story that would make you feel sorry for me, that would make you want to help. Why me, though? Why not ask your father for help? Dad would have asked too many questions. He would have wanted to see bank statements and proof. But you? She laughed. You just wanted to feel needed. You were perfect. And Heritage Property Solutions? That's Steve's company? Yep. We set it up specifically for this. It's actually pretty brilliant. I borrowed against your house, then sold my share to Steve's LLC for $1. Now the LLC owns half, and they're the ones who'll foreclose. I don't get my hands dirty with that part. But you'll get half the money from the sale? 60%, actually. Steve gets 40% for his expertise and for taking the legal risk. But yes, I'll walk away with close to $200,000 when this is over. And you know what the best part is? What? It's all completely legal. You can't do anything about it. You signed the papers voluntarily. No one forced you. No one threatened you. You gave me this house because you were lonely and desperate for family. She took a step closer to me. That's not my fault, Dorothy. That's yours. I felt tears on my face. But this time, They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. "You're right," I said quietly. "I was lonely. I did want family. I wanted to believe that my granddaughter loved me. Oh, please, don't make this into some emotional thing. It's business." "Business?" "Jessica, I'm your grandmother. I used to rock you to sleep when you were a baby. I taught you how to ride a bike. I made your Halloween costumes. I was at every single one of your school plays. And I'm very grateful for all that." Her voice was mocking. "But it doesn't change the current situation." "No, I suppose it doesn't." I took a deep breath. "There's just one thing I'm curious about." "What? Did you ever feel bad? Even for a second? Did you ever think about what this would do to me?" Jessica tilted her head, considering the question like it was an interesting intellectual puzzle. "Honestly? No, because if it wasn't me taking advantage of you, it would have been someone else. Old people with property are targets, Dorothy. I just got to you first." "I see." I reached into my apron pocket. "Well, thank you for being so honest with me." "Why are you being so weird about this?" "I'm not being weird. I just wanted to make sure I understood everything clearly. For the recording." Jessica's face went white. "What recording?" I pulled out my phone and held it up. The red recording light was still blinking. "This recording. The one where you admitted to elder financial abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to steal my property. The one I'm about to send to my attorney, the police, and the county prosecutor's office." For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw fear in Jessica's eyes. You can't record me without my permission." "Actually, I can. This is a one-party consent state. I only need my own permission to record a conversation I'm part of. That recording won't hold up in court. I'll say you edited it. I'll say you made it up. You can try. But you said some very specific things, Jessica. Details about Heritage Property Solutions, about Steve Morrison, about your plan to split the money 60-40. Details you couldn't know unless you were actually guilty." She lunged for my phone, but I was faster than she expected. I stepped back and held it above my head. "Don't make this worse by adding assault to your charges," I said. "You stupid bitch. You think you're so clever, but you're forgetting one thing. That foreclosure is still happening. Even if I go to jail, even if Steve goes to jail, the deed of trust is still recorded. The loan is still in default. You're still going to lose this house. Maybe, but at least you won't profit from it. And neither will Steve." The front door opened. Marcus walked in, followed by a man I didn't recognize, Patricia Goldman's investigator. "Mom." Marcus stared at Jessica like he didn't recognize her. "Is it true? Did you really do all of this?" Jessica's face crumpled. "Dad, I can explain. She's making it sound worse than it is. I was just trying to—" "I heard the recording," Marcus said quietly. "Mrs. Goldman called me and played it for me while you were talking. I heard everything, Jessica. Every word. Dad, please. You have to understand. I needed the money. I have student loans and credit cards and—" "You told her you had no debt. You told her you were smart with money. Which is it, Jessica?" She had no answer. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Patricia Goldman had called them the second I sent her the recording. They arrested Jessica for elder financial abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft. They also arrested Steve Morrison, who they picked up at his office still sitting at his desk, completely unaware that his perfect crime had fallen apart. As they put handcuffs on Jessica and led her out of my house, she looked back at me one last time. "I hope you're happy," she spat. "You just sent your own granddaughter to jail." "No," I said. "You sent yourself to jail the day you decided I was worth less than $200,000. The legal process took months. The district attorney's office prosecuted both Jessica and Steve Morrison. With the recording and the documentation I had gathered, it was an open and shut case. They both pleaded guilty to avoid trial. Jessica got 2 years in prison and 5 years of probation. Steve got 5 years because he had done this to 3 other elderly people before me. Patricia Goldman helped me unwind the fraudulent deed of trust. It took time and lawyers and court hearings, but eventually the judge invalidated the deed transfer and the loan. My house was fully mine again. Jessica's name was removed from the deed. Heritage Property Solutions was dissolved. I never got an apology from Jessica. Not during the trial, not when she was sentenced, not from prison. The last time I saw her, she was being led away in handcuffs, and the look she gave me was pure hatred. Marcus apologized enough for both of them. He apologized so many times, I finally had to tell him to stop. None of this was his fault. He couldn't have known what his daughter was capable of any more than I did. "How did you do it, Mom?" he asked me one afternoon as we sat in my kitchen, the kitchen that was finally, truly mine again. "How did you find the courage to stand up to her like that?" I thought about the question. I think it was the moment she called me a stupid old woman. Something inside me just broke, or maybe it woke up. I realized that being kind and trusting and loving doesn't mean I have to let people destroy me. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me too. I just wish I had been prouder sooner. Now, 6 months later, I'm still in my house. I'm still sitting at my kitchen table where I sat when Jessica first called me crying with her fake story. The lilacs are blooming again outside my window, and I still think of Thomas when I smell them. But I'm different now. I'm lonelier in some ways. I don't have Jessica living here anymore. I don't have that illusion of family that briefly made me feel less alone. But I have something more valuable. I have my dignity. I have my home. I have the knowledge that when someone tried to take everything from me, I fought back and won. I'm 68 years old, and for the first time in my life, I understand that nice and strong aren't opposites. You can be both. You should be both. I just had to learn the hard way that sometimes love means setting boundaries, even with family, especially with family. People ask me if I'll ever forgive Jessica. I don't know. Maybe someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. And it certainly doesn't mean letting her back into my life. The other day, I got a letter from her. She's been in prison for 4 months now, and apparently, she's had time to think. The letter was 3 pages long, full of apologies and explanations and promises to make it right someday. I read it once, then I tore it into pieces and threw it away. Because some betrayals are so deep, so calculated, so cruel, that sorry doesn't fix them. And that's okay. I don't need her apology to heal. I don't need her regret to move forward. I'm healing anyway. I'm moving forward anyway. And you know what? I'm doing just fine. If my story taught you anything, if it made you think about the people you trust or the way you protect yourself, then it was worth sharing. Subscribe so you don't miss more real-life stories like this one. And remember, being taken advantage of doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human. But fighting back? That makes you strong. The sun is setting now, painting my kitchen in golden light. The same kitchen where this nightmare began. The same kitchen where I finally found my voice. I'm making tea, just like I do every evening. I'm sitting in my favorite chair. I'm looking out at my garden, at my lilacs, at my home. And for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace. Because this house, it's mine. Every nail, every floorboard, every memory. And no one is ever taking it from me again.